The morning rush at Atlanta International was chaos as usual. Crowds flooding through security, kids crying, flight announcements echoing off the glass walls. But for one man sitting quietly by gate C-12, the chaos was just background noise. Darius Cole, 35, an aerospace engineer from Washington, D.C., sat with his laptop open, finishing a presentation for a defense conference in Seattle. Dressed neatly in a navy blue blazer and khakis, he looked like any other business traveler. But when he got up to stretch his legs, a pair of suspicious eyes followed him. Officer Randall Briggs, a white airport security cop with a chip on his shoulder, noticed Darius walking toward the counter. The officer's hand instinctively touched the taser on his belt. "Hey!" he barked, his voice cutting through the buzz of the terminal. "Where you headed?" Darius blinked, caught off guard. Seattle." "Flight 206. Show me your ID," Briggs demanded. The officer's tone drew glances from nearby passengers. Darius hesitated, confusion etching across his face. "I just showed it at security. Don't argue with me," Briggs interrupted. "We've had reports of suspicious individuals loitering near this gate." The accusation hung heavy in the air. People turned to stare. Darius swallowed his pride and handed over his ID, aware of how fragile dignity could feel under fluorescent airport lights. Briggs scrutinized it, lips curling. "Engineer, huh? That what you're calling it now?" "What's that supposed to mean?" Darius asked calmly. "Means you people always have a story," Briggs muttered, scanning Darius's boarding pass like it was forged. "Where'd you get this ticket?" "I bought it," Darius replied, trying to maintain composure. "Same as everyone else," the officer's voice rose. "Step aside." Passengers began recording, phones tilted upward as the scene unfolded. Darius's chest tightened. He'd seen this before, on the news, in videos, but never imagined he'd be the one in the middle of it. "I'm not resisting," Darius said quietly, his hands visible. "I just want to know why—" Briggs grabbed his wrist. "Hands behind your back!" The metal click of handcuffs cut through the air like a gunshot. A child gasped nearby. The gate agent froze, uncertain whether to intervene. "Officer, please," Darius pleaded. "You're making a mistake." "Yeah, we'll see about that," Briggs sneered. "You're being detained for questioning." "For what crime?" Darius asked, voice trembling between fury and disbelief. "Suspicious activity," Briggs snapped. As the crowd murmured, a woman in a red blazer, a flight attendant, stepped forward. "Officer, I saw the whole thing. He's been sitting here working quietly." Briggs shot her a glare. "Ma'am, stay out of this." The gate agent's voice came over the intercom, shaky. "Flight 206 to Seattle now boarding." And there Darius stood, handcuffed, humiliated, his laptop bag on the floor, passengers sidestepping him as if he were contagious. He tried to hold his head high, but the sting of being reduced to a suspect for existing in the wrong skin was unbearable. Then came a voice from behind, a commanding tone, deep and cold. "Officer, unhand that man. Now." Briggs turned, annoyed. "And who the hell are—" He froze. Standing there just steps away was Colonel Marcus Avery, the U.S. Air Force commander leading the very defense conference Darius was traveling to. Behind him, several uniformed service members had stopped mid-stride, eyes locked on the unfolding scene. "Do you have any idea," Colonel Avery said, his voice cutting like steel, "who you just put in cuffs?" Briggs stammered, his face draining of color. "No, sir." The colonel stepped closer. "That man is Dr. Darius Cole, lead engineer on Project Sky Shield, the system keeping your airspace safe. You just handcuffed a national defense scientist." The silence was absolute. Phones recorded every word. And for the first time, Officer Briggs realized he'd just destroyed his own career in front of the world. The airport had gone silent. One of those rare, suspended moments where even the hum of rolling suitcases seemed to stop. Officer Randall Briggs's grip on Darius's wrist loosened, the confidence in his stance evaporating as the weight of Colonel Marcus Avery's words settled like iron. Dr. Darius Cole, lead engineer, national defense scientist. Whispers rippled through the gate area. People who'd been filming exchanged stunned looks. The woman in the red blazer, the flight attendant, lowered her phone slowly, her expression a mix of vindication and disbelief. Colonel Avery's eyes, sharp as radar, didn't leave Briggs. "You're about to make the biggest mistake of your life, officer." Briggs stumbled over his words. "Sir, I didn't know. He wasn't wearing—" "What? A lab coat?" the colonel snapped. "You thought his skin color was the threat?" Darius said nothing, though his jaw tightened. The humiliation hadn't faded. It pulsed beneath his calm like a storm behind glass. His wrists ached from the cuffs, but his voice remained steady. "Colonel, it's fine. Just Please, have him remove these. Avery nodded sharply. Unlock him. Now. Briggs fumbled with the keys, hands trembling as he released the cuffs. The metallic click seemed louder this time, like an admission of guilt. Darius rubbed his wrists quietly as a crowd began murmuring louder, some booing, others whispering curses at the officer. Then someone shouted from the crowd, "That's racial profiling!" Another added, "We got the whole thing on camera." Briggs's stomach dropped. He turned to see dozens of phones still raised, blinking red with recording lights. Social media was already devouring the scene. "Colonel, sir, please," Briggs began, but Avery cut him off. "Save your excuses. TSA command will hear about this before your shift ends." He turned to Darius, his tone softening. "Dr. Cole, I insist you travel with us. You'll be debriefed at the conference. This disgrace shouldn't delay your work." Darius nodded faintly, though the weight in his chest lingered. "Thank you, Colonel. I just want to make my flight." As they turned to board, Briggs stood frozen in place, shame scorching his face. The flight attendant whispered something to another employee, and soon 2 airport supervisors were approaching with security tablets in hand. One of them, a woman named Denise Alvarez, spoke firmly. "Officer Briggs, you're being relieved of duty pending investigation. Turn over your badge." Briggs's mouth went dry. "Ma'am, I was just—" "Badge, now," she repeated. The badge hit her palm with a hollow sound. As they escorted him away, the whispers turned into full-on judgment. He tried to block them out, but one voice cut through clearer than the rest. A teenager recording near the gate who said, "That's what happens when you mess with the wrong one." Meanwhile, aboard Flight 206, Darius sat by the window staring blankly at the clouds beyond the glass. His mind wasn't on the humiliation anymore. It was on the fact that it took a high-ranking officer to make people see his worth. How many others didn't have that kind of protection? The colonel sat beside him, breaking the silence. "You handled that with restraint. Most people wouldn't have." Darius smiled weakly. "Restraint doesn't erase what happened. It just delays the impact." Avery sighed. "You're right, but it's not over yet. The footage has already gone viral. HQ's been tagged. This won't stay quiet." Darius looked out the window as the plane lifted off, the city shrinking beneath them. Then maybe it shouldn't. Back at the airport, the clip was already spreading across Twitter, TikTok, and news sites. The caption read, "Black engineer wrongfully handcuffed at airport until Colonel steps in." Millions of views in under an hour. Officer Briggs, sitting in an interrogation room, watched his own face replay over and over on a muted monitor. The words of the colonel echoed in his mind. "You just handcuffed a national defense scientist." He buried his face in his hands, and somewhere above the clouds Darius Cole made a quiet vow. He wouldn't let this be another forgotten incident. This time, the world would see what quiet dignity looked like when injustice came knocking. By the time Flight 206 touched down in Seattle, the world had changed for both men. For Darius Cole, it was an uneasy kind of spotlight. For Officer Randall Briggs, it was the beginning of free fall. As passengers filed out, Darius's phone buzzed non-stop. Notifications flooded the screen, mentions, tags, requests for interviews. News anchors were already replaying the footage with headlines like "Airport Racism Exposed" and "Engineer Wrongfully Detained Before Defense Conference." Colonel Avery's face appeared beside him in some clips, commanding respect and fury in equal measure. But Darius's expression, silent, composed, wrists still red from the cuffs, was what the world clung to. When Darius arrived at the defense summit, the reception was different than he expected. The conference hall, packed with officers, engineers, and industry heads, fell silent as he entered. Cameras turned. Some nodded respectfully, others simply stared. "Dr. Cole," a general greeted him with a firm handshake. "We saw the footage. I want to personally apologize for what happened in Atlanta." "Thank you, General," Darius replied quietly, "but an apology won't fix what's broken." The general sighed, his face lined with the weight of the world. "Maybe not, but you've got people's attention now. Use it." That night, Darius was invited to speak on a panel about racial bias in the workplace. He hadn't planned to accept, but something inside him said he needed to. He stood under the bright stage lights, microphone in hand, and let the silence stretch before speaking. "I didn't want to be viral," he began. "I just wanted to board a flight." He paused, scanning the crowd. "But I've learned that silence feeds systems that treat people like threats before they treat them like human beings. I was lucky. Someone in power spoke up for me. Most people don't get that chance." The applause was slow at first, then thunderous. Meanwhile, in a cramped back office at Atlanta International, Officer Briggs sat across from 2 internal affairs investigators. His once crisp uniform was now replaced with a plain white shirt. A monitor replayed the viral footage again, the moment he handcuffed Darius, looping mercilessly. "Officer Briggs," one investigator said, "you're suspended without pay pending review. This isn't just a department matter. It's federal. You understand the implications?" Briggs rubbed his temples. "It wasn't about race. He looked suspicious, that's all." The investigator leaned forward. "You detained a Department of Defense scientist based on looking suspicious. Do you have any idea what that means for national security? And for you?" Briggs's jaw clenched. "I made a mistake." The woman investigator beside him spoke next, her voice cold. "No, officer. You made a decision. Across the country, news networks debated him in real time. Former officers called for accountability. Activists called for deeper reform. And his name, Randall Briggs, became synonymous with everything broken about racial bias in law enforcement. But for Darius, the fame didn't feel like victory. It felt heavy, like being turned into a symbol instead of a man. Late that night, alone in his hotel room, he scrolled through messages. Strangers thanking him for his composure. Parents sharing stories of their sons facing similar humiliation. Soldiers writing, "You handled it with honor." Then one message stood out, sent from an anonymous account. "He's going to come after you. Be careful." Darius froze. His thumb hovered over the screen. The words were chillingly vague, but something in his gut told him they weren't empty. The next morning, as the conference continued, two men from the Department of Homeland Security approached him quietly. "Dr. Cole," one said, "we need to talk. The officer who detained you, he's not taking the suspension well." Darius frowned. "What do you mean? He's been contacting people, saying he was set up. His social media posts are erratic, angry." Darius exhaled slowly, the unease returning like a shadow. The officer's regret, it seemed, was about to take a darker turn. And the world's attention, already burning hot, wasn't done with either of them yet. Randall Briggs hadn't slept in 48 hours. The TV in his dim apartment flickered with the same scene replaying over and over, the moment he slapped the handcuffs on Darius Cole. Every network had its version, every headline worse than the last. Airport cop suspended after racist detainment. Officer Briggs under federal investigation. Public outrage grows over viral airport incident. His phone buzzed with calls he didn't answer, messages he didn't read. His wife Natalie had taken their daughter to her mother's house 2 nights ago. "I can't stay here while people drive by taking pictures of our home," she'd said through tears. "Randall, what were you thinking?" He didn't have an answer. He kept telling himself he wasn't racist. He'd been doing his job, but the deeper he tried to convince himself, the louder the truth echoed back. You saw a black man and assumed danger. His career over, his reputation destroyed, his face everywhere. In desperation, he opened his laptop and logged onto social media. His inbox was flooded with hate mail, threats, and some disturbing support from extremist groups cheering him on. It made his stomach turn. "This isn't who I am," he thought. "I just made a mistake." Then a message appeared from an unknown sender. "They set you up, man. Don't take the fall alone. There's more to that scientist than you think." At first, he ignored it, but the message came again an hour later, this time with a link to a conspiracy forum claiming Darius Cole was connected to classified military tech and that the whole incident was staged. Briggs stared at it, rage and confusion battling in his head. Was it possible, or was this just another attempt to twist the narrative? He slammed the laptop shut, his mind spinning. He wanted to believe he was innocent, but deep down, he knew he wasn't. Meanwhile, in Seattle, Darius prepared for his final presentation at the Defense Summit. The ballroom was filled with military leaders and scientists, but his mind wasn't on engineering. It was on the warning he'd received the night before. He kept checking his phone, no new messages, yet the uneasy feeling lingered like static in his chest. As he stepped onto the stage, Colonel Avery approached him quietly. "You look tense. Just tired," Darius lied. "Stay alert," the colonel said softly. "We've received word there's been some online chatter, people targeting you. Our team's monitoring it." Darius nodded. "I figured it wouldn't end quietly." When he began to speak, his voice carried more conviction than ever. "Innovation means nothing without humanity. Technology won't save us if we can't even treat one another with basic respect." Applause thundered across the room. Cameras flashed, but among the clapping crowd, a man in a grey hoodie near the back wasn't clapping, just recording. His face was hidden behind a phone, his eyes fixed on Darius with unsettling focus. Hours later, Darius exited the venue to find two FBI agents waiting beside an unmarked SUV. "Dr. Cole," one said, flashing credentials. "We're assigned to your protection detail." Darius frowned. "Protection? For what?" "There's been credible chatter," the agent replied. "Your viral case has stirred extremist backlash online. You're trending in places you shouldn't be." Before Darius could respond, his phone buzzed again. A new message. "Same anonymous sender. He's watching you. Look behind the cameras." His pulse spiked. He scanned the parking lot. Normal traffic, ordinary faces, nothing out of place. Still, unease crawled through him like ice. Across the country, Randall Briggs sat in his dark apartment watching Darius's live-streamed speech, the camera zooming on his calm, resolute face. The image burned into him, reminding him of what he'd lost, what he'd done. His reflection in the TV seemed smaller, weaker. Then came a knock on his door. Briggs froze. Another knock, louder this time. He rose slowly, dread pooling in his gut. When he opened the door, a man in a black suit stood there holding a badge. "Officer Briggs?" Briggs nodded cautiously. "Federal Agent Monroe. We need to talk about Dr. Darius Cole." The air in Randall Briggs's apartment was heavy, stale, thick with regret and cigarette smoke. Agent Monroe stood at the doorway, his sharp gaze cutting through the gloom. He didn't ask to come in. He walked straight past Briggs, scanning the room with quiet authority. "You've been active online," Monroe said flatly. "Posts, messages, private chats, we're monitoring them." Briggs swallowed hard. "I haven't done anything illegal." The agent turned, his voice steady but cold. "Not yet. But some of the people you've been talking to have. We've traced multiple threats made against Dr. Darius Cole, to accounts that interacted with you." Briggs's stomach dropped. "What? I didn't... Look, people message me all the time. I never..." Monroe raised a hand, silencing him. "We know you're angry. We know you feel cornered. But if you cooperate now, we can protect what's left of your career and your freedom." Briggs's mouth went dry. "Protect me from what?" "From becoming the face of something you never meant to start," Monroe said. "You were careless. They saw your mistake as a weapon. Extremists are using your name to rally their followers." Briggs sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. "I didn't want this. I thought I was doing my job." Monroe's tone softened slightly. "Then help us fix it." Meanwhile, across the country, Darius sat in a high-security meeting room at his Seattle hotel, facing two intelligence officers. Colonel Avery stood beside him, his expression grave. "We've confirmed the threats," said one officer. "They're coordinated. Online groups calling themselves the True Shield have labeled you an enemy of America. Their narrative claims you embarrassed law enforcement and undermined national security." Darius exhaled slowly, frustration flashing in his eyes. "Because I didn't want to be handcuffed for sitting in an airport?" "They don't care about facts," the officer replied. "They care about control. You became a symbol, and they're weaponizing it." The colonel's jaw tightened. "We'll assign additional security. You're not going anywhere alone." But Darius shook his head. "If I hide, they win. The world's watching." "I'm not backing down." The colonel studied him for a long moment before nodding. "Then we make sure the world sees the truth." Later that evening, Darius appeared on Good Morning America via live feed. The host leaned forward, voice gentle but probing. "Dr. Cole, you've handled this ordeal with incredible composure. How do you stay calm knowing you're being targeted?" Darius smiled faintly. "Because fear thrives in silence. The only way to fight it is by standing firm, by showing grace where others show hate." The interview went viral within minutes. People around the world called him the man who stayed calm. Hashtags like #DariusCole and #GraceOverHate flooded social media. But while the world praised his strength, Randall Briggs sat watching the same broadcast in stunned silence. Tears welled in his eyes, not from anger but shame. He remembered Darius's words at the airport. "I just want to know why." And now, as he listened to the same man speak with dignity instead of vengeance, Briggs felt something inside him crack. Agent Monroe's voice echoed in his head. "You can help fix this." The next morning, Briggs showed up at the FBI field office. He walked through the glass doors, unshaven, exhausted, carrying a small USB drive. "I have something," he told the front desk officer. "Emails, chat logs, names, the people behind those threats. I want to make this right." Hours later, in a secure room, Agent Monroe reviewed the data and looked up at him. "This could take down an entire extremist cell." Briggs nodded. "Then maybe it's a start." Monroe studied him carefully. "You know coming forward will make you a target too." Briggs took a deep breath. I already am. Across town, Darius received a call from Colonel Avery. Cole, the colonel said, his voice calm but cautious. You might want to sit down. The officer who cuffed you, he just turned whistleblower. Darius blinked in disbelief. Briggs? Yes, Avery confirmed. And it looks like he's trying to save more than just his job. For the first time since the incident, Darius didn't feel anger. He felt something rarer, hope that even the broken could choose redemption.